Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Probably one of the most worn out sayings used when talking about the old and ancient Sega versus Nintendo console wars. There were commercials, advertisements, everything was trying to convince kids to hop on the bandwagon for a particular video game console. And people talk about it nowadays on the web like it was this crazy huge thing going on when they were growing up as gamers. It was like a big crazy schmear campaign, so just bring on the bagels, right? Just smear it on there. Just a video game schmear. Tastes like bits. And me personally, when I was growing up, I never heard a single kid mention anything about Sega versus Nintendo, which one was better. I never even felt like there was actually a competition going on between the two. I didn't even think about it. And yeah, I was a Nintendo kid because, well, I had a Nintendo and the Super Nintendo. And I knew people that were Sega kids because they just happened to have a Genesis. Or Mega Drive, for those of you across the ocean. But the thing is, we never fought about which one was better. Nintendo? Where's your blast processing? NES is only 8 bits. Well, there's the Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo, you must be some kind of idiot. Yeah, it was never like that. Ever. I had a friend who had the Sega Genesis, and honestly, I enjoyed going over to his house and playing Sonic. It was like another world to me with these different graphics and unusual music and sound effects. And I remember the game that I played the most at my friend's house was Sonic Spinball. It's Sonic and Pinball, and they're just kind of mashed all together. It's outrageous is what it is. Outrageous. Because getting to play a video game console that I didn't actually have at home, that was great. Opening a door to new worlds and an untouched library of games. A whole library. A library. Why is the doorknob so tiny? So it wasn't really a big war for me, which one's better, which one's best. But, as a kid, what I did notice is a key difference between the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo was the controllers. I could never get into the Sega Genesis controller. I wasn't like, oh, my controller's better, your controller sucks. I just felt like it was something with me. I was the one that had the problem because I was different. I preferred the Super Nintendo and the NES controllers. Just felt more comfortable in my hands. Sega Genesis controller, yeah, just even now, kind of gives me goosebumps touching on it. Just don't like it. I'd rather play Genesis games with the Super Nintendo controller. But it wasn't like, oh, your system sucks because your controller sucks. It was just preference, It felt better in my hands. And I know plenty of people who think this is the best controller of that generation. And that's fine. I don't hate you for that. I don't. So what was it like for you? If you grew up in those Sega versus Nintendo years, did you notice any competition going on? Did you fight with your friends or, oh, my system's better, you turd butthole, bing bang bong? I was exceptionally good at the name calling as a kid. Obviously. Did you even pay attention to the console wars? And the same thing applies now. You got your fanboyism with different video game systems. It's a lot more discussed on the internet. So, talk about modern systems. Maybe you have a side. Maybe you think the competition's important. Sony versus Microsoft versus Nintendo. Kind of in its own tertiary position. Tertiary, like that? Big words on Game Dave. Gonna get a sticker for that. To me, if it's got good games, bring it on, because I am ready to get digitally distracted. Because I'm always looking for the next game. You know what this is? A forehead? No. This is a professional Game Boy screen cracking device. Better believe it.